Hey team, welcome along. Marty the OT guy here from Nozomi Networks, and good to see you in the workshop again. So today we're going to take a look at some new features in Vantage. And before we do that, let's just have a quick chat about the Nozomi Networks Security Analyst Self-Paced On-Demand course. So there may be people out there watching, hopefully you are one of them, who's done the NNSA instructor-led training. But for those people who can't make it to an instructor-led course, we have spent quite some time actually and effort building a self-paced on-demand version of the course. So that will be available shortly, and I strongly encourage you to take a good look at it. It's an incredible course. The only downside of it is you have to put up with my voice telling you what to do. But in the meantime, let's get on with this Vantage stuff. Guardian Air is a product we released earlier this year, which will help you extend visibility and protection into the wireless spectrum, the radio frequency spectrum around your operational network. So to show you a bit about how this works, let's start by flipping over to the Nozomi Networks webpage and take a look at what we have to say there, and then we'll do some demos on the product itself. So here we are on the front page of the Nozomi Networks website. So you click Platform and select Guardian Air. And you scroll down a bit. There's a lot of good information here, but if we scroll down a little bit, this is what I want to see. Let's just set that up right. There we go. Once the Guardian Air sensor is installed into your network, it monitors frequencies in the range of 800 megahertz to nearly 6 gigahertz. And you're looking at a wide variety of different protocols in there. And that information, the Guardian Air device, is connected directly to a Vantage instance, where we use asset intelligence, Vantage IQ, threat intelligence, and combine and merge that with information coming from the rest of your network, the wide side of your network, to give you that visibility that you've never otherwise had in these wireless ranges. So you could be looking at devices like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell phone towers, drones, wireless cameras, wireless HART. There's so many different protocols. And scrolling a little further down the page, we get an idea of what's there. So there's a lot of things going on. Let's take a look at how it looks for real and show you a little demo. I'm looking here at the Vantage instance for the Nozomi Networks headquarters office in San Francisco. And at that location, we have a Guardian Air sensor, which is detecting all of the radio frequency spectrum in and around that location. So we can see here, looking at the protocols, we're seeing nearly 1200 802.11 standard Wi-Fi networks. There's nearly 480 802.15.4, so that's sort of your IoT devices, Zigbee, wireless HART, possibly building management devices. We've got some LoRa, we've got some cell towers that we're picking up. We're looking at some open drone ID, we'll come back to that one later. And we've got some Bluetooth there. So let's take a little bit of a look around. Just to the right hand side, you can see a column labeled enabled, and it's showing that 1700 networks are set to false, while only 5 are set to true. And that reflects further down in the screen there. The networks that are set to true are the networks that we're going to pay more attention to and collect asset data from and things like that. So this allows you to be selective about what you're paying attention to, what you're focusing in on in and around your area. If we jump across to the channels tab here, what we see is a tabular format or a table format of all of the networks that the Guardian Air device is detecting. We'll just sort that by frequency. And we've got from 729 megs, looks like there's a couple of cell towers down there, some 4G. Right up to 5.8 gig roughly at the top there. So yeah, table format, you can see the noise, you can see the signal noise ratio, the signal strength. There's a lot of good information there. It allows you to kind of do a basic radio frequency audit in and around your area. Going across further to the Spectrum tab, what we see here is a representation of where the activity is around the different radio frequency channels. So at the very left-hand side there, we've got 903 megahertz. On the right-hand side, we've got 5.8 gig. And you can see which channels are the most congested. This could be useful. This could be something that you monitor over time. And if you see this change, then it's something you start paying attention to. We can present the spectrum information in different ways as well. So we could look at, like we are here, channel count, or we could look at signal to noise ratio, we could look at signal strength, or we can look at average noise. Selecting any one of them just changes the way the graph's represented, and in this case we're looking at signal strength spread across the spectrum. Let's see whose networks are the loudest and whose are the quietest. Let's go back to the main wireless page and hone in on that Open Drone ID protocol. So we can just select the protocol here, and it could be any of them, but let's look at the drone one. Select the protocol and we'll select the network that it's being detected on. And in here it will tell us what channels this radio is looking at. So you can see here there's a couple of 2.4 gig and some 5 or nearly 6 gig Wi-Fi channels going on here, and we've got 3 assets. So if we select the Assets tab, we'll find we've got some drones. So we're looking at 2 DJI drones, 1 Skydio drone. And this information has been captured through the Open Drone ID protocol that the drones are transmitting as they fly around. And we can drill inside this a little further. Looking at the name RID, that's probably, I'm going to guess that's a unique ID to the drone itself. I don't know a lot about this protocol, but it's a starting point. We can see it's an IoT device. It's a drone from DJI. It's in the Mavic Mini or Air series. It has an overall risk of 6, and a little bit later in the episode we'll look into how these risk scores work and how you can customize it depending on your needs. Wireless insights, we can see that it's a mobile device and it's being detected on the Guardian Air. And a bit further down we have a properties panel which gives us a little bit more information about the radio frequency or the wireless technology that the device is using and how we're detecting it. So you might wonder why would drones be important? If you're an airport, drones are probably pretty important. You don't want drones where they shouldn't be. If you're in electricity distribution, big outdoor switch yards, high voltage switch yards, there's pretty good reasons to not have drones there as well. And it could really any industry. It really depends on what you're doing, but there's lots of industries where having drones in the area could be dangerous to present a health and safety risk, perhaps, or dangerous to operations. So it's nice to be able to detect the drones as they come into the area and act upon it as soon as you possibly can. Let's look at some other ideas. So one of the benefits of Guardian Air being integrated into the Vantage infrastructure is we can query, we can do data analysis on the items and things that the Guardian Air can see. So we'll change over to queries here, and I'm going to paste in a query that looks for strong network signals that have appeared within the last 24 hours and sorts them in order of strength. So we run the query and I only get back one result. And this might seem a little underwhelming, but maybe it's not too. Maybe in my production environment, I've run this query every morning. This is part of a report, an automated report that comes through and says, hey, what's this new radio frequency source that's popped up in my environment within the last 24 hours that maybe I'm not expecting? I think this is kind of useful for detecting into potential interruptions or interference within your process environment. For this demonstration, on my workbench here, I've got a Hack5 Wi-Fi Pineapple, the older Tetra series. What we're going to do is set it up as a malicious or rogue Wi-Fi access point and do some deauthorizations and things like that and see what we can see within Guardian Air. So first off, looking at the Wi-Fi Pineapple network config here, I've got the management SSID is set as Lab Pineapple, and I've got the open SSID, the rogue SSID set as free customer Wi-Fi, because who wouldn't connect to that, right? Over in Vantage, if I search by Lab Pine, we can see the management SSID. Now, if you're actually using a Pineapple for a malicious intent, you probably wouldn't have this SSID broadcasting, but in the workshop or in the lab here, it's fine. And if we search for free customer, we see the free customer Wi-Fi as well. So the Guardian Air has detected the Wi-Fi pineapple happily. Looking in here, we see we're running on 6 channels in the both the 2.4 and the 5 gig range there, and we've got no assets associated with this, so nothing's connected to our Rogue access point yet. So let's enable the scanning and begin our recon and then do our deauth attacks. So again, back on the Pineapple, recon, we'll hit both networks and we'll let it run for about 2 minutes. We'll be back shortly. Okay, so our scan has finished, and you can see there's a lot of results here, and we've hidden the SSID names for most of them there, just for privacy. And as I move down through the list here, we've got the Lab Pineapple Management SSID is here, and also so are my home networks. Now I'm not going to, no one's fallen for my scam and connected to my free customer Wi-Fi. Curses. What I'm going to do is perform deauth attacks against my my own Wi-Fi network here. So we'll go in and set an aggressive deauth, and I'll do half a dozen, 5, 6, 7 of these, one after the other, just to make sure we get a really good effect, and then we'll take a look at what happens from there. Back shortly. Okay, so we've finished off with our deauth attacks from the Wi-Fi Pineapple, and I've switched back to Vantage here, and there's 2 things going on that I want to show you, but the first one relating to this is the deauth attacks that are being detected here. And we'll just enable live because we should start picking up more of them as they come through. We can see that we've picked up the deauth attacks. It's been pretty quick. It's only been a matter of less than 2-3 minutes, and we're seeing all of the deauth attacks come through. Now, the other one that's interesting here is the Rogue Cell Tower detected. It's not related to the Wi-Fi Pineapple at all, but the Rogue Cell Tower is saying that under a certain operator, which we've got that name blanked out, LTE 4G tower, something's a little hinky here. Something's not right. So let's look inside one of these alerts. And what we can see is that the cell tower is now transmitting at a far stronger signal than it has been observed before. So that could mean, I don't know, it could mean a number of things. It could be a cell booster in range. It could be that the operator has boosted the output signal of the tower. There's a lot of reasons why this might happen, but in your environment, monitoring this type of activity, especially if you know where your cell towers are and what's going on, again, this could indicate something malicious, or even potentially something which could cause an interruption starting to happen in your environment. And this is Guardian Air provides a good way to stay ahead of that. One last little fun demo for you. Everybody loves one of these. If you get a sneaky employee who brings one into the office maybe and starts to, I don't know, try to create mayhem or just have a play around, Guardian Air will pick it up. We're detecting it on the Bluetooth radio, and this particular flipper's name is Quagton. I don't know where they get the names for these things from, but there it is, Flipper Quagton, and it's come up on our Guardian Air sensor on the Bluetooth protocol. How about them apples? We've recently made changes to the way risk scoring is calculated in Vantage. These changes should make it easier to understand, easier to configure, and easier to use across your business. Let's take a little look. So I'm here on the Nozomi Networks headquarters Vantage instance, and I'm looking here at a Meraki access point. And you can see it has an overall risk score of 10. And your first response is, so what does that mean? How is that calculated? With the changes we've made recently, if I hover over this information icon here, you can see what metrics feed into this total risk score and how it's put together. These risk scores are configurable through asset rules. And we can change the rules to be as broad, as generic, or as specific and focus in on single assets or asset types, to suit your environment, whichever way you need it. I'll show you how in the lab. So now here in my Lab Vantage instance, I've selected up some assets here, which are all from Cisco. So we can go into any one of these assets and see that risk hasn't been computed yet. I've done a recent reset and we're starting from scratch here. And if I want to apply risk rules, all I need to do is drop down here and say create asset rule from this asset. Now I've already done this, we've already created this rule, so we'll just change over to the one I made earlier. This asset rule, I've made it specifically for these Cisco devices. And we've got some matching conditions here where we're saying if the type is a switch and the vendor is from Cisco and the technology category is OT, then this rule will apply. Let's have a little look at what other conditions there are. So we could add further conditions to either broaden or narrow the application of this rule based on label, MAC address, product name, OS firmware, site sensor zones. There's a lot of things in there, and you really can get quite specific or broad depending on what you need. Scrolling down the page a little, we see that if we meet these conditions, then we're going to take the action to configure the asset risk. And in the risk simulation here, we can see how the calculations put together. And there are basically these sliders. These sliders adjust the overall score. So looking at, say, asset criticality here, the purple part of the graph, if I mess with the slider, if I change the slider, I change the criticality of this device and how or what proportion criticality makes up of the calculation here. So I can have this quite high, and if I drop the compensating control down and say we have no compensating controls, we get a very high risk score. Alternatively, if we have very good compensating controls, I'd venture to say that this is near impossible in the real world, have a really high compensating control. Actually, maybe the compensating control for this is it's not plugged in and it's on a shelf in a locked cupboard. Then you could have zero risk, but otherwise I don't think it's possible. Anyway, I digress. If we mess with this mitigation with the compensating control slider, you can see the risk value changes overall. So I know that this particular device is locked in a cabinet in my lab and it's only accessible via physical access here on site. So I'm okay saying that my compensating control is quite high, even though my criticality is also quite high. And these are the figures which go in to adjust, or these are the inputs, the variables rather, which go in to adjust the output risk calculation that we get at the end. Further down, we're looking at additional components that go into the mix of this overall score. So we have a vulnerabilities risk, a communication risk, an alerts risk, and a device risk. And you can see I've made some custom settings there, particularly in communication and device risk, around this device based on what I know and what I'm comfortable with. Finally, we set a priority and we can give it a name, and then we would save our rule and it would be applied to the devices, the assets on our network, depending on how broad or how narrow the matching criteria at the start were. When you finish creating your asset rules, they're applied and the results propagate through Vantage. When that's complete, you're able to take a look at a new asset scoring, asset risk section within Vantage. So we drop down the menu and there, asset risk. In this display, you're able to see how your overall risk is trending over time and how you compare to other customers within your industry around the world. Across the top row are 5 boxes going left to right. The custom risk is your overall risk score based on the rules you've defined. The Nozomi risk is your overall risk score compared to customers within your industry. The remaining 3 boxes show the network zones within my environment with the highest risk scores or the biggest changes. Towards the center, we can see a risk trend. And we can enable or disable the Nozomi risk, and we can enable an advanced breakdown of the risk score. With the advanced breakdown enabled, you can see in this box how the score is made up. At the very bottom, we see benchmarking. On the left-hand side, cybersecurity risk. That's the risk within my industry, which is cybersecurity. On the right is saying this is what similar customers within that industry are experiencing. So one is the overall industry, one is similar customers. If we go into the details tab, in this screen we see the zones, the sites and the sensors carrying the most risk, both in a numeric breakdown and in trends. In the benchmark screen, on this screen we see our cybersecurity risk presented as a bar graph against other customers and as a trend line over time against customers within our industry around the world. You've always been able to use queries within a Guardian or Vantage to find out what threat intelligence collateral is available for a specific type of malware or threat actor or threat that's out there. What we've done now is we've partnered with Mandiant to produce threat intelligence information which is available at your fingertips within Vantage to a much, much deeper level and in a way that is so much more engaging and easier to ingest and work with. Let's take a look. So in my lab Vantage here, I go to the main menu and second up from the bottom we have threat intelligence. And the new threat intelligence screen here starts off with these top three or these three pie charts across the top. So we can see targeted industries, targeted countries and malware types. And we're able to sort and search by these categories. But one of the easiest things is to simply hover over the pie and you can instantly get a data point that gives you the percentage or proportion your industry, your country or different malware types represent of the whole threat landscape. Looking further down the page are the new threat cards. Now, this is where our partnership with Mandiant really kicks off, because the information in these threat cards, while we have good information available to all Vantage customers, if you've subscribed to the enhanced threat intelligence and enabled the Mandiant content as well, it just gets so much better. And we're going to do a little demonstration here and enable the 30-day trial of the Mandiant threat intelligence so we can show you a little bit of a before and after. So I'll start off here with this first card, APT19, also known as Deep Panda. So we can click on this card and go into the more information section where we'll see an overview at the top of who the threat actor is, when they were first seen, last seen, the types of malware or vulnerabilities that they work with. We can see the countries that they target, and we can see some reference information with external links to help us expand and understand further what we have here. Scrolling down further, we see a MITRE attack for enterprise table, showing the TTPs that are associated with this threat actor. Below that, we can see the individual threat intelligence collateral, the components which make up the detection capabilities that we have within our products. So in this particular case, we can see that we have 16 Yara rules that relate to this particular threat actor. If we select this, the list expands and shows us the rules, whether they're enabled and where they've come from, which is the update service tag at the very end. Below that, we have alert information where we would see any alerts that are related to this particular threat actor. So back here on the new threat intelligence page, if I scroll to the bottom, you can see that we're on page 1 of 26,403 pages. There's plenty of bedtime reading in here. So what we'd like to do now is enable our 30-day trial of the Mandiant extensions to this threat intelligence. And if you're a Vantage customer and you haven't signed up for the service yet, you should have this trial available. Like all trials, we'll head over to our administration page. And here we select licenses, and you'll see at the bottom we have the Nozomi TI Expansion Pack powered by Mandiant. But it tells us it's not available, so that means the license hasn't been activated yet. We can click the Start 30-Day Trial link, and now we have our trial enabled, and you can see we have 30 days remaining. So let's go back and see what changed. Back in threat intelligence again. And we want, there we go, APT19. And we can now see that it's been enriched by Mandiant. It's the Mandiant logo is now at the top. And if we drill into this, now we can see additional cards at the top, the associated malware and vulnerabilities. We see additional cards and information here that come from the Mandiant extensions. And there are quite a lot of them. There's a lot of information here. You can pick any one and drill deeper into it, and we start to see more and more info. The further down the rabbit hole we go, the more info we get, right? And staying here with the APT19 page for the moment, we can see that the targeted countries information has changed. We're now displaying the information that Mandiant is providing through their service, through their extension to our service. We're seeing all these additional countries that are being targeted by this group. So with the addition of the Mandiant information, and I scroll to the bottom here, you can see that we're now on page 1 of 26,582. So it's added roughly 100 extra pages, 100, 150 maybe, extra pages of information. That's a lot when there's, what are we looking at, 9 cards per page. So there's 900, maybe 1,000, over 1,000 extra cards of information are now available by adding in the Mandiant information over and above what's normally available just within the Nozomi threat intelligence framework. So by enabling the Mandiant extensions to the Nozomi network's threat intelligence, what you're really creating is a one-stop, at your fingertips, research and information repository for cybersecurity adversaries globally, whether it's types of malware, whether it's the actors or the vulnerabilities themselves. Rather than having to look at something in your SIEM perhaps and then Control-Tab across to Chrome or something and do a different browse, open a new tab in your browser and start looking there, you can do it all here with Advantage. You could start from an alert, from that alert dig into the threat intelligence, and from the threat intelligence go out to the web to other reference information and allow you to pull together a picture of what's going on in your environment a lot faster. I don't know what you think. I think this is pretty cool, actually. This is the first time I've seen it. You've seen me enable the 30-day trial. This is the first time I've looked at it. So I plan on making the most out of the 30 days, frankly. So what about all that then? Hopefully you found that interesting and useful. Please like and subscribe and share this with your friends and colleagues and anyone else who may find it valuable. If you have any questions about any of the products or technologies we've shown in this episode, reach out to your local Nozomi Networks representative or contact me directly and I'll put you in touch. You can find me on LinkedIn. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. I'm Marty the OT guy from Nozomi Networks, and take care, stay safe. See ya.